All right, I'm here with Aaron Abercrombie today from Entertainment Technology Partners. How are you, Aaron?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Aaron and I met a couple months ago when his company, Entertainment Technology Partners, came to us because they wanted to adopt HubSpot. One of the cool things about ETP is they have 7 different brands in their portfolio. And you originally were going to come and because you were going to bring HubSpot into one of those brands, Event EQ. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, the goal was to kind of just do we wanted to do a trial run before we made the larger investment, and then, it was probably a week into it that we hit the ground running, and everyone started coming to us being like, "We want this too." Um,
So
yeah.
everyone is the other 6 brands that
Yeah.
you work with. So do you specifically work just with Event EQ, or do you work with a few of the different brands as well?
No, so the way ETP works is, we're essentially we're the parent company for a bunch of brands, but we're also shared resources. So we've got companies like EventEQ, Pixel, LMG Touring, Systems Innovation, so on and so forth. And they're all like-minded companies, so they're all dealing with technology and event spaces. And so it's the job of entertainment technology partners to provide things like human resources, marketing, IT, accounting, basically all of the back end stuff, so that way they can focus on doing what they do best, which is just delivering technology at events.
Okay. And so bringing HubSpot into the fold, that was to be able to create a marketing resource that could be shared across the board?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we have some we had Salesforce, and a lot of our outreach was, whether it's cold outreach or warm outreach, a lot of our outreach was kind of in the hands of whoever the business development people were. So, um, there's only so much they can do in a day. And so it was our goal with the marketing department to kind of help to start qualifying leads before the business development people get involved. So that way spending their time doing, they're spending their time, actually the chasing down work that is qualified, you know?
Yeah, and I think we see this a lot, right? We see people who are currently working in the Salesforce environment. They're, they're doing their best, but it's harder for marketing to support them with some of Salesforce's tools. We work with HubSpot, we work with Salesforce, we love them all differently, uh, but it's really clear where HubSpot needed to come in and really provide that marketing support. So I know one of the first things that we did when we were working is we had to get Salesforce and HubSpot to start speaking to each other. But that was not necessarily super easy because if I remember correctly, there was not just one Salesforce instance. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. So we have kind of like the ETP Salesforce instance that has existed for a very long time and is sort of a messy database with, I don't know, 600,000 contacts or something ridiculous. And then we have a more targeted instance of Salesforce that is specifically where like people are actually hopping in and they're tracking their activities, their calls and their emails, and um, we're, whereas the other one is, it's kind of just like a reporting tool.
Gotcha. Okay. And so what was it we had to do first to get these tools speaking to each other?
So we met with your team and we identified all of the, essentially, the how the fields should be mapped, the directions they should be pushing. So, like what is HubSpot able to overwrite? What is Salesforce supposed to be like kind of the source of truth for, so on and so forth. So they gave us a document that basically laid out how all of that was going to work, and then they implemented, and it's been great so far.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think that's a really important step, and sometimes people miss that. It's the ERD is creating that diagram that just shows the entity relationships. And so once everybody can see how that's supposed to work and how that's supposed to flow, I think because I'm not a technical person by any means, but when I see those, it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I feel
Yeah.
like that helps get everybody else on board and provides that visibility. And it's kind of like, basic, architecture and construction, right? Here's the map of what this is going to look like. And then when you guys say, let's do it, then we go build the house and make everything work together. Um, and I'll also say that the HubSpot Salesforce integration really needs, definitely needs your time and attention. It's not as easy as being able to hit one button, despite what both companies try and tell you.
Yeah.
Have you got, what were some of the obstacles along the way of getting those two systems to speak to each other based off your specific use case?
I mean, credit to your team. There weren't any. We kind of we identified what we wanted to do, and it was a week or two later that it was just ready to go. Everything worked. And kind of, you said you're not a technical person. I like to. I feel like I know enough about a lot of these technologies to be dangerous. And
Mhm.
so what's been really cool about your team, right, is they built the house, but I know enough to be able to change out the light bulbs and put in a dimmer switch, so
Yeah.
they've been great to just hop on Zoom calls and kind of walk me through how everything works. So that way, when I need to make tweaks, I'm not totally reliant on, hey, can you guys change this one field or add, an option to this one drop down? They not only set everything up, but have been awesome and really responsive to be able to, if I have questions about how things work, I can ask them once and then I know in the future.
Mhm. Yeah, and I really appreciate you calling that out because that's something we've been trying to do way back, even like when we used to just build websites, right? You build a website for somebody, but you want to do it in an environment where it's like, hey, if you need to change a photo or a word, like I want to empower you to be able to do that. Like
Yeah.
you don't need to hire me for that. And so I never enjoy those solutions. I kind of lock out people who are on the client side that are capable enough to make those changes, change the light bulb to use
Yeah.
your metaphor. Okay, well, man, that's sounds like we did good by you guys. What is kind of the next phase now that your team is getting more ingrained? How are you guys gonna look to take HubSpot to the next level?
Yeah, so right now we're working with HubSpot Professional, so everything's kind of under the ETP banner. So we're doing outreach on behalf of companies, but as you know, like with HubSpot, if you send an email, there's got to be an address at the bottom. So everything's ETP, um, and so I think the next step is going to be switching over to enterprise and actually getting the business unit set up, so that way we can segment everything for the different businesses. But also, we're looking at kind of ditching Salesforce, at least in terms of business development. We're looking at ditching that as a whole and integrating or kind of getting set up with Sales Hub, so getting it all into one place.
Gotcha, and I think that that's a common use case, and I think there's the right teams need to utilize the right systems. And one thing I really like about what you guys did is that instead of just kicking off with enterprise, going to business units and trying to make it work, you said, "Hey, let's walk before we run. Let's get a
Yep.
system that works for us. We'll try to do it with this one brand." And then one weekend, everybody goes, "Oh, I want two." And so now you're trying to make it work for all brands, which is another, it's just a step, right? And then
Yeah.
eventually you will be able to grow in because we see that all the time with companies that own, multiple entities. And, if you guys own 7 brands now, I wouldn't be shocked if in a few years there's more than 7 brands. Let's just say.
Yeah.
And so I think that next step is kind of creating that foundation for each brand so that when a new brand comes in, at that point we're able to, here's how we do it. Here's the way that we create the data. This is the properties that we need. This is how we customize it. And then you're able to take a new company's data and then kind of put it into your system. And so it's kind of cool that it sounds like we're already on that path, maybe even a little quicker than you guys thought we would be, right?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think we were hoping for potentially like summer to start thinking about Sales Hub. We've already been having conversations with your team about kind of what those next steps are going to look like. So
Nice, yeah. So it's always nice to be able to meet you guys where you're at, right? And I think that's one thing we aim to do. If we want, we always like to say like we paint the promised land, right? What does everything look like when it's done? Every company is utilizing HubSpot and sales and marketing are all talking together, and we kind of have to go one step at a time to get there. Um,
yeah.
All right. Well, before I let you go, is there anything else you want to share about your experience or the story of Attack and ETP working together?
Yeah, I think it's been awesome. We reached out to a bunch of companies that we were considering doing this integration. I think the culture. Every time Cam and Julian hop on the call, I always start it by saying my favorite people, because they're just super chill, super easy to work with. Um, but one of the things that also kind of stood out to me about you guys was it didn't seem like in the sales process you were trying to push us in a direction where you were making more money or like you know what I mean? Like you weren't trying to sell us stuff that we didn't need. You definitely met us where we were at. And with us already having experience in Salesforce and really understanding like the fields and the things that we need, it has been I think it's been a great partnership because it hasn't, you're not trying to like take the keys and do everything. You're like I said earlier, you're not trying to take the keys and do everything yourself. You're really empowering us to be able to make everything happen that we need to make happen.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of like philosophy that we've had, right? If we want to be long-term partners with a company like yours, like then we need to do what's right by you from day one, right? Taking any sort of shortcut that's good for us in the short term, that's way too short-sighted, right? Like we want to be able to help you, over time, and as you guys grow and grow and acquire more and more companies, we want to be able to help you guys bring them into your ecosystem, have that be a nice structured CRM that is working for sales, is working for marketing, and it becomes easy. And then at that point, then are super happy. We partner for years upon years, fingers crossed, right? And
Let's go.
yeah, yeah, we help you guys, we help you. We're part of your growth story too. And that's really rewarding for us to be able to look back and go, oh, remember when we started and they were going to just use one brand and now they're like super organized with business units. And anytime they bring on a new brand, it's so easy to just seamlessly bring their data in. So I actually like telling this story as where it's at because I feel like it's still kind of at the beginning. But I'm so glad that we were able to kind of help you guys get out to this great start, and I'm really excited to see where we can help you grow.
Yeah. Super, super appreciative of your team. They've been awesome so far. Let's circle back in a year. Once we got the business units, we'll do another one.
All right, sounds good. Thanks so much, Aaron. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a good one.
That's it for today. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit subscribe so you can see our latest videos as soon as they drop. We really appreciate you watching. See you next time.